It's midseason in the NFL, some key awards. Where are we at the halfway point? John Clayton has his MVPs. Plus, who are some of his Super Bowl frontrunners? I can tell you, I will make this prediction. John's been with us for a lot of this season. It's been great having him on. His Washington Post column is must-read every single week. He's always got something in there that has you raise the eyebrow like The Rock. See what I'm cooking? I'm cooking up this. He's got no NFC East teams as the Super Bowl frontrunners. I can tell you that much. That's my prediction. Wow. We'll see if he concurs. He joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Halfway through the year, John, are we safe to say the NFC East is not a contender for the Super Bowl this year?
No, but I mean, of course, the great part is at least you have everybody qualified for the top 10 of the draft. I mean, obviously one team's going to be kept out because most likely Philadelphia is going to win the division, and so they'll get the 22nd pick in the draft, and so I guess that's okay. But in the end, it's like this division again is the worst we've ever seen. I mean, it's just so bad. But it's like, and I continue to stick up for Carson Wentz when everybody's kind of Wentzed out on him because I still remember the fact that he ended the game 2 weeks ago with only one starter left, and that was Jason Kelsey. And, somehow, some way, he's been able to pull these victories out. Now, again, the key is have games in the NFC East because, again, the division's so bad, you win those games, you win the division.
Yeah, I know you're out in Seattle, and a couple of years ago, that 7-9 Seattle team got to the playoffs, won a game. Is Philly that possibility? Like, if they got in, would that be a team that other teams would fear playing, or are they just so much in disarray right now?
Well, fear playing, no. But again, like anything else, as long as you have a home game, even though, again, there's maybe nobody in the stands, you do have a chance to win. And so with the idea that, maybe by the end of the year, this team will have an offensive line, that could help. Certainly, that maybe a receiver or two will be healthy. I mean, that could help. At least Zach Ertz should be back. That will help. So, but the key is nobody's going to have that fear factor. Because what you're looking at is whether it's going to be because look what the possible matchups are going to be. The fourth seed ends up taking maybe let's see, New Orleans, the second place team in the NFC South. Maybe, and certainly if not, then they're going to get somebody from the NFC West, whether it's Arizona or the Rams. No chance I think for San Francisco. So I mean, you look at the way those matchups are going to go, and it's like, is that really going to work?
What are your thoughts on Doug Peterson to this point?
I think he's done as good of a job as he can under the circumstance because, again, it's like it just all started off so bad. And then it's just been a scramble ever since. And Doug, of course, has been honest about the fact that the offense doesn't have the persona right now, the personality. It does kind of figuring out which way to go. But, again, how can you do this? And, again, we're seeing more and more of these teams that have all kind of problems with injuries and how they have to adapt to them. And so the fact that when you look 2 weeks ago before the 2-game winning streak, I mean, it looked like, the Eagles are going to be the team that could finish toward the bottom. Now, of course, with the wins in the last 2 games, at least they're in a position right now to maybe get to the 6 wins. But I think Doug's done a good job.
Yeah, you've mentioned on this show, John, that if you just win your division games, that would get the Eagles to 6-9-1. That might be enough. They got that brutal stretch, but man, looking around that division, it's hard to find any of those teams getting more than 6 wins. So 6, has that ever been done before? Has anybody got in a 16-game season with only 6?
I don't think there has. I have to go back and look at it, but I don't think there has ever been a team that's been able to get in with that few. We've had 7s. I mean, usually maybe there's like 2 a decade where you have a 7-win team get in, but in a season like this, I mean, it's just brutal. And particularly too, I mean, knowing that this division, the NFC East, is feeding the NFC West. I mean, it just makes it so crazy.
Speaking of the NFC West, your MVP of this year, Russell Wilson, is this going to be finally the year that he gets his just due?
It should be. I mean, because what you're looking at is, how well he's played. The fact he's on the highest scoring offense in football. He's on pace for 59 touchdown passes. I'm sure he's not going to get 59, but he should be able to break Peyton Manning's record. He's been able to manage comebacks when necessary and be able to survive on a defense right now has given up more yards than any team in 8 weeks for NFL history, I mean, that's about as good as it can get. And of course, I mean, he is so in sync. He's developed now probably one of the best, if not the best, 1-2 punch at wide receiver in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And he's been able to, as the phrase is, let Russ cook, and he's cooking a good meal.
You look at it halfway through the year, everybody thought the Chiefs were the Super Bowl frontrunners. It's them in your mind, and who?
Pittsburgh. You still don't discount Baltimore because Pittsburgh's 7-0, and certainly if you're taking the number one seed right now, you go with the undefeated team. Kansas City, of course, lost the one home game to the Raiders, but I still think in the end, as good as it's been for Ben Roethlisberger, as good as it's been for the wide receivers of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you still look at Patrick Mahomes, who right now I think is better than Ben, and the receiving core in Kansas City, when it's healthy, being better than Pittsburgh's. And, Pittsburgh does have the better defense. They have the more complete team because of the defense and the offense. But I still get the edge right now to Kansas City.
How about any teams with an outside chance? Packers, Buccaneers?
Oh, yeah. No, I think what you do is that, the way it's funny because once you get to like three teams in each conference, and there's a little bit of a gap because, like, for example, it's Seattle, it's Tampa Bay, and, certainly Green Bay. And again, that could change if New Orleans gets that second win over Tampa Bay on Sunday night. They're the three main contenders right now. And then in the AFC, it's pretty clear. It's Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. But Baltimore's starting to manage a bunch of problems. I mean, Marlon Humphrey got the positive test. And so now there was a total of 8 guys in COVID's quarantine. And so they also lost 2 offensive linemen, particularly Ronald Stanley, who just got the big contract extension of almost $20 million a year. And, the one thing that Lamar Jackson's not doing is equaling his MVP season and showing that he's not been able to learn how to make big comebacks against good teams.
John Clayton, the Washington Post, his NFL column is up. And, of course, we are at the halfway point. You talk about the Cowboys, 2-6, and that Mike McCarthy has taken a lot of criticism here. But how much blame falls on the new head coach, or how much should this be looked at possibly your owner/GM?
Well, I think you have to, put him on the griddle too, because certainly Mike has not coached well. He's not getting good receptions from his players. But then also look at the hand that was dealt. And again, on paper, it looked great because here's the Cowboys starting the season with as many as 16 players who have been to the Pro Bowl. But then you start to look, it's like, okay, what's happened to a lot of those guys? I mean, first off, they spent $24.4 million on the average, as far as average salaries, for 6 defensive players, and they're all gone. They spent $6 million on Everson Griffin. They traded him. He had 2.5 sacks total. They 30-pound overweight Don Terry Poe. He's gone. Gerald McCoy, they had to cut him because of a season-ending quad injury. Maurice Canady, a cornerback, he opted out for the season after signing a 1-year deal. Darryl Worley signed a 1-year, $3 million deal. They've cut him. They've cut Clinton Dix, $3.75 million. And then, of course, the misfortune, just like the Eagles and other teams, they suffered 4 major injuries along the offensive line, and technically they've lost their top 3 tackles. And so you throw all that together, and you basically want to throw away the season.
Looking at another organization, how about the Chargers? Is Anthony Lynn's job at risk?
I have to think so because, you're looking at a team that does have good talent. They've got good talent on defense. Certainly it hurt to lose Derwin James, but, they've got, a good front 7, particularly with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. And on offense, you can see that Justin Herbert's come in and done a great job, but they can't close. They're 3-18 in the last 2 years as far as having, 1 point or 1 possession victories, 3-18. And then they're on a 4-week stretch right now where they've blown 16 or 17 point leads 4 times. And of course they did win one of those games, but they lost 3, but they don't have the ability to finish.
Unbelievable, those stats there. John Clayton, the Washington Post. Check out his NFL column. We're halfway through. We're looking at a couple of things. I like this Dolphins team, John. They made a controversial decision to go to Tua. He wins that game. He wasn't great, but should people start being a believer in the Dolphins?
To a degree. I wouldn't go overboard because, again, they're not overly talented, but they're much better than last year. And what they can do is take advantage of some easy games on their schedule and get some wins. I mean, certainly, 2 wins over the Jets, that's got to count. I mean, now I have a better chance against the New England Patriots because the Patriots are 2-5. You can see that, Brian Flores right now has done a really good job. I mean, the job he did on Jared Goff may have been even better than what he did in the Super Bowl against Goff when New England played him back a couple years ago, because all he did back then with Bill Belichick is take a 6-1 defense and cut off the running lanes and the short passing lanes for Goff. Well, this time he had the 6-1s, but he also was able to come back and have more blitzes. He was dropping defensive players, defensive linemen into coverage and different things like that. And even though it was a 92-play game for 471 yards on offense, they couldn't do anything as far as getting scores. And, of course, they forced the 4 turnovers. And so, I mean, the stats may not look good, but the coaching looked great.
John, I'm interested to get your take. You've covered this game a long time. You've seen a lot of great rookie quarterbacks. They come in and take the league by storm. But Joe Burrow, I mean, is this guy one of those difference-making guys that could finally turn this Bengals franchise around for a consistently long period of time?
Yeah, as you notice, he is my rookie of the year. But, I mean, turning around right now, that can't be on him because he's got a horrible defense and he's got, hardly anything on the offensive line. But here's how good he is. I mean, he's putting up record numbers right now for passing. I mean, he's passing like 42 times a game, but his completion percentage is great. I mean, he's been able to hang in there despite, 30-some sacks that he's been able to handle. I mean, he has just done absolutely phenomenal. And I think it bodes well because, I mean, you look for that one quarterback that can bail you out, and he is that quarterback. I mean, Justin Herbert, again, I still get the comparable to Matt Ryan for him, and these are 2 really good quarterbacks, but Joe Burrow clearly has done an amazing job. Think what he did last week against Tennessee. Here's a Tennessee Titan team that can't put any pressure on the quarterback, and he came back and was able to have 5 offensive line starters out. 4 starters who are on the active roster and a guard who's on injured reserve. He's down to a second-string offensive line, and he beats a 5-1 Tennessee team. That is impressive. Puts up 31 points despite bad blocking.
John, he could possibly numerically be in the MVP conversation if the team was any good.
Yeah, the team's no good, so that takes him out of the MVP race.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's how good he's been, though. If the team was any good, that's how well he's played. Lastly here, a great column from John every Monday, the Washington Post. Check out his NFL column there. Mike Tomlin, who, everybody says Belichick. And then number 2, it's a debate. Is it Andy Reid? Is it Pete Carroll? Mike Tomlin's name should probably be in there, but it just seems that he's almost like the forgotten guy. But what a year he's had to last year they went 8-8 with Duck Hodges and a cast of characters, and now where he has this Steelers team, he's your coach of the year so far.
Yeah, no question. Because, when you think about it, and this is the unfair part, usually the winning coaches are the ones that don't get the chance to win the coach of the year. Usually it's going to be a new coach that has a winning record or a coach that comes in and improves a team by 4, 5, or 6 games. They're the ones that usually get this. And, of course, you can say Pete Carroll's done a great job. Bruce Arians done a great job. Andy Reid continues to do a great job. Well, they all get ignored. Well, the one thing is Tomlin cannot be ignored because here he was on an 8-8 team. He's now got it to 7-0. I mean, you look, if he did well with Ben Roethlisberger, worst case scenario, he's going to win 12 games. Well, he might exceed that. And so, what he's been able to do in the course of a year is revamp the defense, after the Mika Fitzpatrick trade and then getting Devin Bush last year, although Devin's out now for the season, but been able to get this team to be a top 5 defense. Top 5 defense, Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback, and 7-0, that to me, MVP. And of course, coach of the year.
I do want to, John is also at 710 ESPN, and you wrote a piece about the Seahawks leapfrogging the Niners. But what about that, Wes? How do you kind of handicap Arizona and the Rams? Because those 2 teams are all, right there in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks like there's going to be 3 playoff teams that are come out of this division. Now, the Rams had a major setback with what Brian Flores did to Jared Goff in the game last week, and now they have 3 losses, but they're still in the mix. But now you start to wonder, is Arizona now the main challenger? I still think it's the Rams being the main challenger to Seattle, but you have to say Arizona came in. They won their home game against Seattle. You can see that Kyler Murray is a sensational quarterback. They're hanging in there on defense despite not having Chandler Jones, who's out for the season. But I think that Cliff Kingsbury's done a good job. They did lose 2 games that they should not have lost, but to be sitting with the record that they have and having only 2 losses, I mean, they're in contention.
They are. They're fun. It's a fun division. John Clayton writes an NFL column each Monday for the Washington Post, looking at all the biggest storylines, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. John, we always appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
All right. He is fantastic breaking down these NFL storylines each week.